standardisation then is something that myself and the team at OCN London have talked a lot about, and we do run individual standardisations at request. That is an additional charge, but we thought putting on these kind of standardisations would be a really good way to share our knowledge, to impart some ideas across a lot of our centres. I'm really glad that we've got so many people joining us today. So why do we do standardisation? Consistent approach. That's the key underlying theme behind standardisation. You do standardisations within your centres, across your teams, across your colleges, across your centres, but it's all about making sure there's that consistent approach to assessment. Are all your learners, despite who's standing in front of them facilitating, despite which department they're in, are all the learners receiving the same experience across the board? You know, making sure that what we're assessing and how we're assessing is fair, is comparable. You know, learner A, learner B, are they being assessed the same way? You know, is there opportunity for diversifying our assessment methods? Can we look at equal opportunities for our learners? You know, some learners prefer particular types of assessment and are more adaptable to particular types of assessment. Can we look at that? We're going to look at that today for sure. It's also about identifying good practice. You know, there's some members of staff out there that are trying new things, taking risks with their assessment, and that's great. You know, how can we assess in different ways? How can we make assessment useful, valuable for our learners? And today we're going to look at some of those key areas. But also, standardisation is there to support you as assessors, your IQAs, anyone within your team. It makes you realise, actually, yes, we know what we're doing it really well. Our learners are getting a great experience, and over and above, like I said, it's that consistent approach for our learners. They know what to expect, they know what they're going to be getting. Okay, Jan, did you want to add anything here at all?
No, all good.
Perfect. Okay, next slide then, please. So when you're attending, sorry, there's a little bubble that just comes up. Apologies. Sorry, Jan. So when you're attending these standardisation events, what to you makes a good standardisation? You know, what are you looking for when you signed up to this today? You might have been forced to. Apologies if your senior leadership team forced you to sign up or anything like that. When you signed up, what would you be looking for? What makes it good? So let's use the chat facility for this bit if you're able to. Just a couple of ideas in that chat box of what to you makes a good standardisation event. What are you looking to come away with? Yeah, okay, great. So hearing other people's perspectives, understanding, yeah, clear understanding, identifying needs and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. We aim to try to ensure that we're going to cover a lot of these areas today. We've got Q&A at the end, so if you feel that we haven't and you do have questions, then we will be looking at the questions that have come up throughout the session. The Q&A facility is available on here as well, so if you do have other questions at a point when we're having a discussion, please put them in there, and there will be opportunities today to work within breakout rooms to discuss some of the key ideas that we've come up with. Consistency, yeah, setting targets, looking at AI and plagiarism, yes. So that's a big thing at the moment. I know I'm talking about it a lot, and our SEND conference in March, a little drop of that one in here, our SEND conference in March is going to be focused around AI and the use of AI for our SEND learners. So keep an eye out for the save the date coming out for that towards the end of next week. Okay, Jan, next slide then for this one. I'm keeping an eye on what's coming in. What is compulsory? Yeah, that's a really important one, actually. What paperwork is compulsory? What is it that we need to be doing? Can be tricky, isn't it? Right, so let's kind of just take it back to basics a little bit. And I'm not teaching grandma how to suck eggs on this one, but I want you to kind of really think about what the key principles are of assessment. Why do we assess, and what's the purpose behind it? Jan, these are going to come up just one at a time. So if you could just put the first one. So that word safety. What do I mean by safety when it comes to assessment? Have you created a safe assessment? Our role as your awarding organisation is to create safe qualifications. Now, by that, I mean that they are able to be accessed by lots of different learners that there is no risk in the learners not achieving if they meet all the assessment criteria. But you've got to kind of then think about what is a safe assessment. So safety behind assessment is important as well. And this is where that consistency comes in. You know, are you creating safe assessments when you are assessing your learners? Next one, Jan, please. Reliability, huge word when it comes to our assessment, you know, and the key principles behind our assessment. Is your assessment reliable? If someone else was to look at that learner's work, would they make the same judgment? You know, and sometimes that's easier when we're doing exams and things like that. But when we've got wide evidence capture and a range of assessment, how difficult can that be? That can be quite challenging. Next one, please, Jen. Currency. What do I mean by currency? It's an interesting one for the key principles of assessment. Anyone got any ideas why I've put the word currency up there? Use the chat function for this bit, or you can turn your mics on and shout something at me if you want. That's fine. Why currency? Is it up to date? Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. So is it up to date? Is it current? Is it something that has been reviewed? Yeah. Is it accepted by employers? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about here. So are there things that we need to update when it comes to looking at our qualifications and our assessment types? Is it up to date? You know, there's no point in teaching something from 10 years ago. It's going to be out of date. You know, I made a joke yesterday. I was running a standardisation yesterday, and I made a joke that actually by the time we've created qualifications or a textbook, they're out of date because something new has happened. I worked in the science area of education, and the things that I taught 10 years ago changed. You know, new updates and things like that, and you have to kind of stay up to date with that. How often are you reviewing your assignment briefs? How often are you reviewing your assessment for currency? Next one, please, Jem. Sufficiency. Are the learners being given the opportunity to meet the assessment criteria? Is there sufficient? Is there sufficient information to allow the learner to achieve? And that's what you've got to kind of think about. Is it sufficient for our learners? Next one, please, Jan. Consistent. Here's our standardisation, right? So is it consistent? How we're assessing each of our learners, is there a consistent approach? Is learner A and learner B, are learner A and learner B getting the same experience? If they're not, then there's something not quite right in our assessment approach. Okay, next one, please, Jen. Is it valid? How do we measure validity when it comes to assessment? Have they met the assessment criteria? Is there clear indicators that the learner is competent and confident in what they've been taught? Can they demonstrate an understanding of the knowledge, skills and behaviours they need for that particular assessment criteria? Next one, Jen, please. 2 more. Legality. Is what we're teaching them right? Is it right? Does it make sense? Are we using the correct terminology for things? Are we making sure that they are fully prepared? And then finally, fairness. Fairness, validity, reliability, those 3 things kind of come as a package in my eyes. You know, like I said, learner A, learner B, working at the same level might produce different evidence. Same assessment objectives across those different learners. So just like I said, just a quick review of those assessment principles, just bearing those in mind when we're working through things today. Next slide, please, Jen. I feel like we're back in COVID times and I'm Chris Whitty, you know. Next slide, please. Jen, did you want to take the first 2 on this one and I'll look at the second 2?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be looking at observation and how to effectively record observation. I'll be pointing out some of the issues that REQAs find with the recording of assessment and what some kind of key tips what to look out for. Similar thing with photographic and video evidence, although the examples that I'll be giving you today are predominantly photographic rather than video, but we will be talking about video evidence.
Yep, and then moving on from that, we will be looking at artifact creation. We're going to be looking at group work as well. These 4 assessment types are key assessment types when it comes to entry level, we've found, you know, and OCN London qualifications have that flexibility to be able to assess in different ways and for the learners to capture their evidence in different ways. You know, what we try to do and what we try to maintain is that regardless of need, learners should be able to achieve. And by using different assessment types, we're able to open the door to some learners of things that they thought that they wouldn't be able to achieve. And we're going to look at these in a little bit more detail. We're going to show some good examples. We're going to show some examples that maybe are not so good. And I want you to really think about your practice and how you encourage your learners to develop their own skills through the different types of evidence capture that we're making available to them. Okay, next one, please, Jen. I think this is you next, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of an interactive session now, focusing on observation. So just to add to what Lisa said, this is basically, this standardisation is around predominantly skills-based evidence. And these are the key areas where we do pick up concerns as EQAs. So if you just scan that barcode on your screen, that should take you to a Mentimeter page where you can add your thoughts around what makes a good observation record. If anyone has any difficulties accessing it, please let me know. Okay, so it's a Padlet, sorry. Not a Mentimeter. It was a while ago.
We use so many different things, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm going to do it as well.
Yeah. All right. So
just so you know, you shouldn't need to log into Padlet to be able to answer it.
What? Yeah, I've got it on our screen, but what do you want us to do? It doesn't allow us to write anything.
It's not letting you write.
Nothing.
No, Jen, it's not letting you write on there, unfortunately.
okay, well, let's just use the chat function then initially. So if you could just put in the chat function.
I'll have a little look while you're talking through, Jen.
Yeah, see if you can get it working.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no worries. Technology is great when it works, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so let's just put some ideas in the chat. That's all right. What for you makes a good observation record? Yep.
Great answers coming in. Really
Yes.
great answers.
Yeah, photographic evidence. So yeah, supporting an observation with photographic evidence. Yeah. Nice, I like that, to build a picture of what the learner demonstrated during the observation. Signing and dating, also very important.
Yep.
Yeah, great. So somebody's put as well, states what has been observed, not just a statement confirming that the learner has met the criteria. Great. Okay, some really good thoughts there. So the next task should be relatively easy. So in terms of key points, we've I think people have said standardized for each learner, so individualized for each learner. One of the best ones that I've come across in my time as an EQA or an IQA is where you get a tick list with all the assessment criteria that are supposed to have been covered, and all they've done is substitute the learner name. It's exactly the same for every single learner.
I'm a little bit round there, because I'm sure we
Make sure, sorry, could we mute, please? Thank you. Identify the assessment criteria being met. And as a number of you have highlighted, make sure that it provides a narrative of the learner meeting the AC. And it should be individualised. And also it should state how much support the learner required. Okay, so we're going to give you a little activity to do in breakout rooms this morning. There is a unit specification. So this is the very slow, of course. There we go. So we've chosen an entry 3 unit for this today, as we're working from entry 1 up to level 1. This kind of hit the middle really, and also covered a lot of skills. So this is the assessment criteria. I'm just going to give you a moment to read through that, because it may disappear when I put you into rooms. So perhaps take a screenshot of that so that you've got that available. Although
can we drop that into the chat, Jan? That link.
Yep.
So then people can access it from the chat. Then if it does disappear when we share. Apologies.
Yeah, I will do that in a second.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and then this is the sample observation record. So what I'd like you to do is to identify, is it sufficient, why not, and what is needed in addition. So we're going to have a look at this observation record, and I will put both those links in the chat for you. And then I'm going to pop you into room. So we're just going to have 5 minutes to generate, brainstorm some ideas. Bear with me as a moment.
Thanks, Jan.
All participants have been assigned.
Yep, I can see they're on there. So are they all? Is everyone being sent into the breakout rooms now, Jan?
Yes, they have.
Okay. Just going to put a little message in there. Gone all quiet. I'll get all quiet. So we've got 5 minutes here, so 5:30 back for that.
Yeah.
I couldn't get your Padlet to work, but I've changed my one because my one was doing the same thing.
Okay.
Oh, they haven't got permissions, Dan. You have to change the permissions on the settings bit where it says copy link. If you change the permissions
Okay.
just for reader only.
Where do I do that?
So on that little settings, go back.
Mhm.
So when you if you go on to, there should be a settings bit where you did the copy link.
Yeah.
So click on the settings, and then people should be people you choose. It shouldn't be that one. Should normally give you read only. Can you just maybe I don't know, screenshot it?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it the learner observation record that they can't
Yeah,
see?
I'll screenshot this.
Screenshot and just drop it in there.
Yeah. Can they still look at the chat? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're responding in there. There we go.
Mhm.
Let's go. Might just pop into a couple of the rooms, see if people are having a chat.
Mhm.
Hi, Jan. I don't seem to be in a room.
Yeah, I don't know why. Just
Nor am
stay
I.
in this room.
Hi,
Hello.
Amy. We're a room.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hello.
you're a room here. So
Thank you.
you three. Sometimes I don't know why it doesn't. Certain people I can't allocate into rooms. I don't know. So if you just use the screenshots you've got here, you've got the unit spec and you've also got the observation. Hi, welcome Samantha and Harry. We'll just keep you all here in this room for now. We're just looking at a unit spec and a sample observation task.
Okay. So I've took a couple of quick screenshots of this, just very quickly looking over this. I mean, the first thing I can see is who observed them and what date did they observe them.
Yeah.
Just looking down the assessment criteria. Okay, well we get to 2.2 and then we seem to lose which specific ACs we are looking at. So they're not listed. So I would want to see what they actually specifically were compared to the spec. Looking at the comments, they're just too vague. Everyone picked an ingredient. So what did Johnny do? What ingredient did Johnny pick? Done, completed. Well, where's my evidence to show me what he did? Yeah, it's just very, very vague, not very descriptive.
And there's obviously a couple of boxes empty.
Yeah, boxes empty of just ticks. See photo. Well, I mean, I know this is just the standardisation thing, but where is that photo? You know, and is it of Johnny? And what's he doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny selected the correct equipment. Well, what equipment? So it says choose the correct equipment and handle it safely and hygienically. Well, how did he do that? You know, 2.1, someone said healthy eating is good. Well, was that Johnny? Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that one.
That's very good, Hayley.
Yes,
you.
well done.
Excellent thoughts there. Yeah, most definitely. I like it. Good
Yeah.
conversations. I think we're going to bring a lot of people back now because a lot of people in their breakout rooms can't see the assessment criteria.
Okay.
Don't know if it'll let me do it, Jen. I think because you're managing the rooms, it won't let me announce. Right, so people should be joining us back in now. You want to go back to the PowerPoint, Jen?
I'm just going to keep this one here
Okay.
for a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so apologies, technology failed us this morning. So I hope some of you were able to see. But what I've left on the screen for you to see is the observation record. So could we get some feedback on your thoughts on this? We had a few people in the main room who did a good job on it. So let's just open up the mics and get some feedback from you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sure they don't mind me speaking for my group. We were trying to get a snapshot of what we could see. But we kind of come up with the idea that it's not sufficient because, for example, in the first criteria, everyone picked an ingredient they liked. We're not assessing everybody. It's meant to be that
Exactly.
individual person, and it's not, it's kind of generalized answers. And what does done? How does that give sufficient criteria? What have they done? So even though it's an entry 3, it needs more contextualized answers based around the learner on how they achieved it. So it's too brief.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Sunshine, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, like we looked at it as a group really, and we basically all said that it's not showing like actual observation. It doesn't show what the learner did, how they did it, and there's just no context. It's kind of like a tick in the box and like completed.
Yes.
I'm like, but what's been completed?
Exactly. Well done, Sunshine. And then we've got here, who have we got here? Rosie. Hello, Rosie.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't say who the observer is, and there's no
Yes.
date, time,
Yes.
or anything in relation to that. And we echo everything that everyone else has said. It would have been so easy to have had photographs and to chronologize the photographs
Yes.
and to, in terms of
That
what's
word.
happening.
Yeah,
That
brilliant.
word, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Rosie. Catherine, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, I just completely dropped out there. My internet dropped for some reason, so I'm not sure what's been said. But I mean, in our group, we were talking a lot about the fact it's just not relevant, it's not personalised. Some of the comments don't even match the criteria. There's no evidence of who's done it and where and when and what vegetables or fruit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a very kind of crass version, which it's fairly obvious what the issues are with it, but you would be surprised how often we see this kind of thing as an example of an observation record. Although there are comments, it may as well just be a tick box exercise because the comments don't give us the detail that we need. So yes, no name of the observer, no date. So what I've done here is kind of incorporated all the key issues that we see when we look at observation records. Sometimes they just refer to the entire group rather than what the individual did. So great. Also, obviously, there's assessment criteria missing. I just want to take you back to the unit spec here. So you'll notice when you look at the unit spec compared to the observation record that not all of the assessment criteria have been covered. So just as a little additional task, why do you think those two, so it's 2.1 and 2.2, why do you think they haven't been covered in the observation record? Would they be?
Is there a part saying select the healthiest methods, and where's that evidence?
Yeah.
And why?
Mia, you had your hand up. Thank you.
Would this maybe be prep work before this session? So they might have discussed healthy cooking methods and then selected their recipe before doing this observation task?
Yes, yeah. So how could we evidence these two if we're not including them in an observation?
Maybe it could be part if they've got like a bit of a workbook throughout the course, then maybe it could be a task in the workbook prior to this.
Yes. So In terms of formatting that, how would you get them to do it? Would you get them to do a written answer? What assessment method would you use for 2.1, first of all? It's identify which methods of cooking are considered healthier than others. Anybody like to suggest Ruth?
Hiya. Yeah, we generally kind of do it as a workbook leading up to a practical, so they've got their underpinning knowledge there. And then what I kind of do after that is when they've then done a practical, I kind of take a bit of ownership of those outcomes and then write a bit about what they've done next to them in their own practical sheet. So they've done a bit before for the underpinning knowledge, the actual practical, and then the bit after, just to confirm it kind of again. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've also got, so I have to hover over you to get your names. Mary, you've got your hand up.
If I wanted to show that, I think I would have a photograph and pictures for our kids. We're in an SEN school with all different cooking methods, and then get them to highlight or circle which ones they would consider healthier and why.
Perfect, yes. Also, I think here it's relatively easy to evidence those, isn't it? So that's an ideal way of doing it. What about 2.2? What would we do for 2.2? Sunshine?
Could you do like a Q&A with I don't know, the learner or something? And like ask a couple of questions and then they answer it. Or it could also be like a written questions and answer.
Yep, yes. Yes, discuss which methods they could use. Any other thoughts on this one?
Helen?
Helen, hi.
Yeah, if the workbook or worksheet has the photos of the cooking methods, they could be numbered, and you could just ask them which of these would you use for your recipe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think what I'm trying to get across, or I'm trying to demonstrate here, is that we have a range of options open to us here to provide to evidence these criteria. And that allows us flexibility with our learners, particularly our SEND learners, to choose the method that's most appropriate in this situation. So you could provide an observation sheet for the whole unit. Yes, you could use video recording as well, and photographic evidence, and we're going to come on to that in a moment. So, great. So here is one I prepared earlier for you to comment on. So let's just have a look at one which we would consider to be best practice. I'll just move it across for you. One moment. Here we go. So comments on this, please. So we noticed initially the unit title is provided exactly as the unit title. The unit code is also provided. Why is it important for us to have the unit code? Helen, I think, is your hand up from previous?
Yes, but I'm happy to answer it.
Oh yes, do so, please, Helen.
Yeah, just so that you're certain that they're using the correct criteria.
Yes.
And it's the most recent one.
Yes, exactly. Yes, because occasionally units do change, or sometimes, particularly in the progression qualification, we might find different versions of the same unit. So we need to make sure when we're checking it, both as IQAs and EQAs, that we are using the most current version. The assessment criteria that is covered in this observation is all listed at the top. We've clearly written the name of the learner and the name of the assessor, so those were missing from the previous. What's missing here? I was going to tell you, and then I thought, no. Let's check who's
Oh, you're a
observant.
mean one
The
today, Jan.
date, yes, fantastic. So the date is missing here. So let's just have a look. It's perfectly acceptable. The date is there, actually. It's down at the bottom. That was just a trick question.
Tricky.
Yes. So it's perfectly acceptable to provide a statement across multiple assessment criteria if that seems appropriate, because often one task will cover multiple assessment criteria, and so we can do that. So I'll just give you a second to read that through, and then if anyone wants to make any comments on this, please do so. Okay, any comments? Sunshine, you're on mute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Well, it's got more information. It's like clear and factual. So like earlier, I can't remember what it said earlier, but like everyone picked an ingredient they like, which was quite vague. Whereas this one, it describes what Johnny did, how he did it, and what choices he made.
Great, thanks. Jennifer.
Yeah, as someone that's an outsider, so to speak, I can actually look at this feedback and know exactly what took place in that lesson at every single stage. So it's very detailed, and as Sunshine previously said, very concise and just very well presented, I think, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any Shabnam?
I just want to say thank you, Jan, because this is our first year running OCN at New Vic Centre, and we've literally drawn to whatever documentation OCN have provided, and that's the one that we've used. So it's just definitely given some reassurance that we're doing the right thing. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. We try to make sure that we provide as much information as we can, templates, things like that, you know, and if we don't have them, ask. You know, we're quite happy to kind of work with you and create some things, or we have some centres that are quite happy to share some of the things that they've done as kind of exemplars and things like that. So please do ask if there is anything that we haven't got that you'd like to see as well.
We can send these out, Lisa, can't we, as exemplars
100%.
after today's session.
Yeah, anything you see in today's session, we will put a pack together so that you've got them, and you can then use those in your own training within your centres as well.
Okay, so just to pick out what we consider to be the reason that the signed and dated. It provides a clear description of how each criterion has been met. Yeah, and I think what Jennifer said, as an external person, and that is kind of your benchmark. Take yourself away from it and think, if I knew nothing about this learner, nothing about the centre, would I be able to picture what the learner did from the description that's provided? And if the answer to that is yes, then you've provided sufficient detail.
I'm just responding to people in the chat as well. So if you have put something in the chat, I am responding there as well.
Yeah, okay, good point, John. Thank you. All right. Any further questions around observations before we move on to photographic evidence?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So in terms of observation, because when I was an assessor, do we get the learner to sign it too?
Ideally, yes. It authenticates it.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Shabnam? Was your hand up from earlier?
It might be a historic hand, yeah.
Apologies, earlier, sorry.
It's okay,
No
don't
problem,
worry.
don't worry. All right, any further questions before I move on to what everybody's been asking for, photographic evidence. So let's just have a bit of a feedback. You can shout out or you can put things in the chat, entirely up to you. When is it appropriate to use photographic or video evidence, and what is best practice when using this type of evidence? Practical activities, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, as people have mentioned throughout, yes, demonstrating a skill. And I think, as people have mentioned when they were feeding back on the observation, they're very helpful in supporting an observation. I'm quite often asked, do I need to provide an observation record if I'm providing photographic evidence? And I would say, for robustness, yes. Alongside an observation. Well done, Sophie.
Yeah, some really good responses coming into
Yeah.
the chat here. Sort of, you know, things like best practice with regards to that, making sure you've got permission, making sure the learner's comfortable to be photographed, you know, considering your looked after children perhaps, and vulnerabilities there is really important. Check their EHCPs if they have one, for anything around that as well. So ensuring safety of your learners.
And I think it's another thing that we're often asked, what do I do? Yes, Rosie. You see, all these people that have done IQA training, interesting. I don't know why I've just lost my screen.
Yeah, what have you done? Things like supporting an IQA practice where it can be shared across centres, yeah, definitely. If you've got a walkthrough sequence to complete a task, I like that one, because then the learner can then go through, and it can be an additional task for them, maybe a holistic learning point where you've got the pictures printed out and they have to then put them back in the order that they did things. That then demonstrates their depth of understanding of the process that they carried out. Yeah, if some of your learners aren't happy having their photograph taken, I've got a 14-year-old teenage daughter that absolutely will not let me take a picture of her no matter what. So I have to get sneaky pictures, or take a picture with the back of her head, generally is what tends to happen. So yeah, this is a good way, you know. Yes, you can definitely annotate your photos as part of that observation as well. Yeah, these are really, really important things.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got practical skills and things like that you're testing, having photographs for the learners to then look back on and review and reflect on what they've done can be really key as well. Sorry, Jan, I jumped in there while you were
sorting out
having
the
technical
presentation.
difficulty there.
Yeah, and we're quite often asked, what do I do if my learner doesn't want their photograph taking? And we will often say, well, you can, if it's a skills-based thing, you can just show them doing it without including their face and get them to annotate it to verify that it is them doing it. So good, some great points, thank you. So just to summarise, clear photos and videos, reduce background distractions. A lot of you have mentioned annotation. Make sure that the evidence is individualized. So particularly if you're using a video, it might be a video including different learners. So you need to be clear about which learner is which on that video. It should be clear what assessment criteria is being evidenced. Using date and time stamps. So if you're using video evidence, please state on your accompanying observation which part of the video, so what is the timestamp on the video where the learner met that evidence. That's really important, because if you've got a video in evidence that's 20 minutes long, nobody wants to sit through 20 minutes times however many learners you've got. So providing the time that the learner met that allows your IQA or your EQA to go in and very quickly check that. Okay, so we've got some examples, and this is kind of fairly moot because you've identified all the issues. So what are the issues here with these photographs? Remembering that this is the same learner, so we've got a theme running through. this is whatever, Johnny, who chose tomatoes and chose to make a tomato sauce.
Yeah, it could absolutely be anyone in that first picture, Rosie. Yeah, Rosanna.
Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, it really could. Well, I don't know who that is. You know, definitely not. Good.
Yeah, no PPE in the
No
second
PPE,
grade.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know which assessment criteria this relates to.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
cooking something green in that second one. We don't know
Yeah.
what that is. Broccoli or something. It's not referenced. It could be just, you know, stir frying some herbs. I don't know. Ready for his tomato sauce that he's making.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Note as well that we do, yes, no, we've got no confirmation of the learner's understanding. It's making me hungry.
Yeah.
Sorry
I've not had my
about
breakfast
that.
this morning. You know, I've not had my Weetabix this morning. So.
And if we look at those photographs as an EQA, I'd be looking at those photographs. Obviously, all of those points that you've made, but also I'd be noticing that the first picture is wearing a blue t-shirt, and in the second picture is wearing a burgundy. So are they in fact? Oh yes,
Two different kitchens
good
as well.
Spot.
Yeah, well done on that one.
Kitchens.
You should have done the spot the difference on this, Jan.
Yes, I
that
should
would have been
done,
quite good.
Yeah, so these aren't authentic. I would say these photographs are not authentic.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well done. Well done, everyone.
So now I'm going to
Can
tell
I
you a
just- can I
funny
just ask
story
a
about these
question?
pictures. Sorry?
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
We have some learners that really don't like to be photographed, their face, for example. So the one where there was no face evident on there, is that still acceptable as long as we've annotated it and we are saying they are who they are?
And as long as the learner has signed, as in this one here, you can see at the bottom, Rosie, that they've signed that they said that is a true depiction of themselves. That's
Yeah, okay,
authenticating
lovely.
that that's them. That's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Go on, Jan. Continue with your funny story about these pictures.
Yeah, so I did use AI to generate these pictures, and I was trying to get them to do pictures of the same learner wearing the same clothes, carrying out the tasks that met the assessment criteria. And at one point, AI went completely off-piste, and I ended up with a photograph of two. It was kind of like Ghost. Is it Ghost? Is it that the one it's called? Where they're kind of two people, and one of them's got his arms over the top of the other one, clearly stirring the sauce together. So it got very
I'm shocked you
random.
didn't use those pictures, Jan, in
I
all
know, I
fairness.
should
That
have
would
done.
have made for a great conversation piece.
Yes, it would have done. They're going in our quality team chat later after
they
this
will.
standardisation. So, any comments on this? Yes, Mary. You're on mute.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask about the clothing being different. What if they've met different parts of different units on different days and therefore their clothing is different?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That may be the case. I just pointed it out for this one because clearly all of those things were happening on the same day. And it's one of the things that you would need to kind of state to make that clear, because otherwise it might be picked up as potential. What am I trying to say? That it's not authentic. Any other comments?
That's correct, actually, Helen. There are no ACs referenced in the photos.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, instead of maybe numbering them, it might be number them with the ACs that they're referencing.
Yes.
Most definitely, or put it in brackets afterwards. You know, the learner might have annotated them. You know, there could be some extra bits and pieces that the learner could do here, but it's a nice sequence. It shows what's happened. I don't know if the learner's using the correct chopping board in this one.
Yes,
someone has
it's
to confirm that with me. I'm not up on my
green for vegetables. That's a valid point. There's no name. Well, there is a name. There is no date. That's correct. but this would be accompanied by the observation record, so that would cover that. What I would recommend when you're presenting this kind of evidence is that you have almost like a template where you put the assessment criteria, you put the picture, and then underneath you have a space for the learner to comment on what they're doing. And then obviously at the bottom of that sheet, you could have the learner's signature and date. Okay, anything else on this? So I don't have an example of a video because that would take too long out of the session today, but I think the key points, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of video, we treat it very much the same things. The learners need to be clear, they need to be identified, and provide us with stamps, timestamps, as to when the criteria has been met in a video. And please try not to make them too long, especially at this level. They don't need to be very long. Any questions on that before I hand over to Lisa? No?
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Really helpful, there. So the one that I'm going to talk about is around artifacts and the creation of a physical representation of a assessment criteria. Now, a lot of our qualifications will have this, you know, the physical representation. So from a point of view of kind of what we would expect to see, we've got a learning outcome here to be able to produce an art or craft piece of work. It's very wide, yeah. And then their assessment criteria is just to make an art or craft piece of work. So it doesn't really prescribe what needs to be done. So this can be taken down to interpretation. You know, it could be that you are putting on a show and the learners are creating backdrops or scenery items or props and things like that. You know, it could be that it's a particular time of year and they've been asked to create calendars or something like that. This is down to interpretation, but what would we expect to see? So we've got some key points on here. Making sure that all stages and assessment criteria are covered. When we're creating an artifact, it might be that it starts off with making art or craft piece of work. It might then go into further development of what type of tools they need to use. And similar to what Jan had with the young man making the tomato sauce there, it was a step-by-step process. So making sure that all your assessment criteria are covered by doing a step-by-step kind of review of what they've done can be really helpful. If they've created an artifact, get clear pictures of that, making sure that we can see what the learner's done, any like special parts that they've done. For example, if they've used particular techniques, pictures of that as well. You know, a lot of your external quality assurance happens remotely, so your EQA doesn't come into your centre physically sometimes, you know, so having clear photos to demonstrate what that learner's done is really good. It helps for the learner to do some reflection later on as well. Going back to Jan's point about that annotation by the learner if possible, and the reason why I've put if possible is because some of our learners, particularly at lower levels, would really struggle with annotating their work, you know, so maybe some key statements that the learner can pick from that they can then cut and stick and put them into their portfolios would be really helpful for them as well. Individualized. I'm not going to spend too long on that because we're going to do some stuff on group work in a moment, but if it is a group project, how would you navigate making sure that each learner has shown their art or craft piece of work? Just a thought moment for that. Like I said, we are going to do group work in a minute as well. And then a reflection. Has the learner been given an opportunity to reflect back on their progress? You know, the things that they've done. Maybe they did a draft version first of all, you know, practice, and then we're given an opportunity to do final project. And then finally, how much support can you provide? You know, learners working at entry level might require some additional support when it comes to using particular types of tools. It might be things they've never used before. So guiding the safety around that as well is really important. So making sure that the support that we provide, whether it be through scribes, through staff supporting the learners completing their tasks, please make sure that is clearly shared with your IQA, your EQA as well. Next slide, please. So here we go. Here's a craft that someone has created, a piece of craft that someone has created. Over to the chat, or call out if you would like to, or hands up, whatever. Would you class this as sufficient to meet the assessment criteria that we just saw? So it said to make an art or craft item. What do you think? Yeah, Shabnam, lack of detail, not sufficient. So if we're saying this is an entry 3 learner, let's put this at entry 3, because that's what that qualification is. Samantha.
Yeah.
It's okay, don't worry.
Hello, sorry. We don't know what the criteria, the skill that they're working towards, that there's no understanding of the progression that they've had or their kind of starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's very vague, isn't it? What kind of guidance have they been given prior to achieving that assessment criteria? Because we've got to remember the assessment criteria are the things that we're working towards. Yeah, we're working towards achieving. So there's been teaching go on prior to this to get them to that point. So is the learner demonstrating that this is an art or craft item that they've created? Sunshine.
I don't know, just looking at it, it just shows us like the final piece really. So it does not show us like the process of how it's been done.
Yeah, no documentation of process. Yeah, similar to what Brandy said in the chat here. Yeah, absolutely. This is all we're given, you know. From an EQA perspective, Jan, how would you feel about this? Do you feel happy? Jan's putting a face at me. So definitely not a happy face, that's for sure. Yeah, there should be a journey, John. Yeah, absolutely, a journey, a timeline. There's no learner name on it. If we go back to Jan's point, I don't know who made this. This is a photograph of that artifact that's been created, but it's not authenticated. Okay, so what do we need to do then? We need to make sure that the learner is demonstrating the skills that they've been taught, an annotation of what the work that they've completed, perhaps, you know, maybe a step-by-step what they did to get to this point. Yeah, it's an end product. Yeah. No story of how we got here. Absolutely not. Yeah, thanks, Sue. So not sufficient for an entry 3 learner. This wouldn't be an acceptable artifact for this particular assessment criteria. Next slide, please, Jen. What about this one then? I like this one. This wasn't AI, funnily enough. There's actually step-by-steps for this. So this is the artifact. This is the final piece. So we're looking at this as just the artifact at this point. Your learner's created this card for you. Entry 3 standard. So there's a couple of techniques being shown here. So there's some cutting, there's some gluing, there's some lettering, there's some drawing going on here. There's a simple design. There's a plan that's kind of gone into this, really. Here comes our EHCP, right? Fine motor control. Can we hit a target here for that particular learner? They've used scissors. They've cut neatly. You know, they've considered their handwriting because it's going to someone special, perhaps. The finished piece has got a clear purpose. Your learner, I've not put this on here, but learner can explain their choices. You know, that's what we'd want for someone at entry 3. Maybe you'd have a Q&A going alongside this with your learner of why did they choose this particular style. Yeah, Catherine, it looks like it took longer, doesn't it? You know, effort went into it, care, consideration of what I needed to do to make sure this was a good finished piece. Remember, that artifact is your final piece, your finished item based on all that learning that you have done. So you could have created that first one. That could have been the first point, right? Your learners come into a classroom and you say, make me a card, make me a greetings card. That could be where they started. Then you've done some teaching around skills and layering and different materials. And then this is their final piece. Imagine that for a demonstration of progress for that learner. How proud they'd feel of where they've come from based on where they started. So yeah, final artifact alone doesn't show the learner actually made it. Now it would be accompanied, like I said, would be accompanied with other tasks and things like that. But we're just looking at this as an article on its own. Ah, good, Karen. I like that. So questioning whether or not there was a little bit too much support coming in. Well, maybe a little bit too much guidance, perhaps. Yeah, you know, maybe our entry 3 learner is quite skilled and had a great idea, but needed some support to bring it to life.
And I think this is where, if you support it with photographic evidence, that again demonstrates the journey and will cover that point that's just been made, because you'll be able to see. Yes.
In that situation, then, so you're the assessor here. You know your learners have support. You've got your teaching assistants and LSAs and things like that. What would be your approach? So you think, actually, this is a little bit too much support. How would you approach assessing it then? I like that, Peter. Demonstration of sense of humour. Yeah, I didn't create the card, sadly. I don't think my humour goes to that level. They've enjoyed it, yeah. Sunshine.
Well, I'm just answering to the question that you've just asked, really. Could you do like a step-by-step method with the learner, and then they could follow it?
Yeah, step-by-step method. You know, if they have had support, they've needed support with cutting and things like that, just make sure that that is documented through observation records, photographs and things like that, you know, and then the learner has signed and authenticated that the work was obviously partially completed by them, but the design ideas and things like that have gone into it were described to their scribe, perhaps, you know.
Nice.
Q&A, we said Q&A. Yeah, definitely. So a really good method there. Could be a first draft. Pull back support a little bit at a time. I do one, we do one, they do one. Yeah. A really, really simple way to support our learners. Show one, share one, do one.
Absolutely. And I like Rose's point as well. You'd have a conversation with the assessor, because it's very important, as we mentioned earlier, to note how much support's been given to the learner.
Yeah, I like that point, Helen, actually. Yeah, we often start learners off at, you guys often start learners off at entry level 3, and then kind of see where they can kind of build up towards, because they're coming back into learning sometimes, you know, and the educational environment has changed a lot, and for some learners their experience at school wasn't great, so it can be quite daunting. So giving support and then pulling it back a little bit, pulling it back, building their confidence and getting them to that point. Thanks, Rosanna. It's something I've used since I was teaching in schools. Show one, share one, do one. So I'll show you how to do it, we'll do it together, then you're going to do it on your own. You know, it's a really good thing to live by. I taught a lot of science, but I worked with a lot of SEND learners right from the very start of my career. So it's something that I'm really very, as most of you will know, very, very passionate about. But yeah, show one, share one, do one is key to supporting our learners for sure. Next slide, please, Jen.
Hopefully this one works.
Well, it should do if this is a new version of the PowerPoint. I updated it, and you've got it live, haven't you? You've got it from SharePoint, so it should have updated live. So we're going to try Padlet again, and we're going to talk about group work now. So group work is an absolute favourite of mine, but is an absolute bugbear for quality assurance. Really has a lot of pitfalls, a lot of areas that can go wrong, and quite often will be the reason why your IQA will send work back to assessors. So there are some pitfalls. So hopefully this Padlet is working and is going to allow you to put some ideas. I'm going to look at it on my phone at the side here. Hopefully it's going to allow you to put some ideas. Is it working, this one?
Yeah, you just need to make sure that you click on the little red icon up in the top right hand corner next to the globe, and then that allows you to.
Right, I'm seeing some answers come in. Yep. So what are the pitfalls when evidencing group work? So I want you to think about, have all the AC been clearly evident? So the assessment criteria, what are we looking for? How are we evidencing them? Have all, bolded here, all the outcomes been met for all the learners? I remember when I was training to be a teacher, we got told about the log in a group. So if you've got a group of three or more, one person will be the log that everyone sits on, basically. They're not really doing much. They're there, they're present, but they're not really serving a purpose within the group task. Padlet, you shouldn't need to log into Padlet. It should let you use it as a guest. It'll give you a really random name. It's normally to do with a weird animal. But yeah, I want you to kind of really think about whether or not when you're doing group work, do you know who's going to be the log within that group? Because it's something that kind of stuck with me. You know, if everyone's got a task to do, if everyone's got an activity to do, then great, they're going to be busy. But is that going to allow them all to meet the assessment criteria? Possibly not. Knowing who contributed what, yeah, absolutely. That's a really good one. Lack of clear roles and responsibilities for learners. Yep. Yep, some really good answers coming up. I'm just going to pull it up on my big screen so I can see it clearer, because for some reason it's filtering them in a very strange way.
I've got that as well.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. It's not doing what it normally does for me. We're having real technical difficulties here. Yeah, if you are having issues, just commenting out in our normal comment area. Let's put it as columns. There we go. That's a little bit better, perhaps. Or as a wall. Let's put it as a wall. There we go. Lovely. That's better. That should have updated for everyone. So I'm just going to have a look through some of these. Difficult to follow individual contributions. Yep. Someone might be ill on the day of the actual. Yeah, on the actual day when you're evidencing things, that can make things go wrong. Strong leaders or passive players. I like that comment there. Higher level learners dominating. Yep. Doesn't always reflect your individual skills. They're not all contributing the same. Too many learners to record your evidence against. Yeah. Yeah, if a group task is happening during one session, people don't attend the second session, oh my goodness, then what are we going to do? Yeah. Have the students been provided enough efficient time to build skills in all their areas? Absolutely. So, I mean, you guys are more than aware of all the things that can go wrong. So how do we make it right? What do we do to ensure that it goes right? So it's all about the observation. It's all about giving opportunities to question the learners, whether it's during the group task, doing a Q&A session, which is recorded, asking about what they've done to share. My favourite is when you get learners to present what they've done, because then they have to talk about their role within there. And within that, you can then look to see whether those assessment criteria have been met. But what if your learners have done a great piece of group work, and they presented it and you go, there's one assessment criteria that, let's use Johnny from earlier on, hasn't met. What can we do for poor Johnny? Because he was really active in that group, but he just hasn't quite met that assessment criteria. How can we support him?
Evidence it a different way?
Yeah, evidence it a different way. Yeah, absolutely. Group work is a great thing to kind of build confidence for learners, particularly those learners that really do struggle, working independently. Group activities can really help, but we need to make sure that every single time those learners have met and been evidenced against the criteria. Okay, each learner needs to show competence. That's what we're doing. We're giving these learners confidence and competence in that area of learning. They need to show competence, and it could be that they've done it as a group. We can use our activity from earlier. They've done it as a group, and now we're going to do it on our own. So we made a card as a group, so that's our share one. Now you're going to do one. That way we're ensuring that every single learner has made the assessment criteria their own. They've individualised it. But yeah, so have a conversation afterwards.
Yeah, professional discussion, Q&A, definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. Next slide for me, please, Jan. So, little task for you here then. Thanks for the input for the Padlet. That's really helpful. We'll make that available afterwards as well. So here's a learning outcome to be able to engage in discussion, a really easy one for group activities. You're going to do this as a group task. So you've got 5 assessment criteria here. I'll give you a minute to have a look at those. I've got 4 learners in each group. So I've split my groups into 4 learners. How would I make sure that I've evidenced each learner here meeting the assessment criteria and overarching learning outcome? What kind of evidence would I accept for this, do you think? Feel free to hands up, shout out answers in the chat. Get each learner to lead a topic. I love that, Rosanna. Each learner leading a topic. Good. Having a video. Mia.
You could maybe after the discussion do a bit of like peer-on-peer feedback. So if someone else had made a great point, they could show their understanding of what they were talking about by giving positive feedback to one of their peers.
Yeah, definitely. I love peer assessment. I love peer-on-peer feedback and peer assessment because it gives the learners, that's my buddy. My buddy really liked what I did, and they saw value in my responses to things, and they're going to use that knowledge somewhere else. Every learner needs to ask a minimum number of questions, transcriptions. Yep, recording with transcriptions. You don't even need to transcribe it yourself. You could set it up as a recording that transcribes as well, and then all you've got to do is, as an assessor, go through and say which learner, did this. You can set up it like this, or Teams call, they can do it like this if you want to, assessor checklist. Yes, all these different things, lots of skills can be shown through a group activity, group discussion activity.
There's just one point I think I want that's just to come up for me, is to make sure with any video or any recording, audio recording, that you get the learners to introduce themselves.
State their names. Yeah. State their names is just a really quick way to authenticate. I've got a centre that all their stuff is done through video because of the learners that they work with, and the first thing they do is say, my name's so and so, I attend and I think, and then they go on to their assessment criteria. Some of them even state their assessment criteria at the beginning of it because they want to be absolutely thorough. They say this video is for assessment criteria 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and it's like, oh great, thanks, you've done the assessment work for us as well. Next slide for me please, Jan. So here's an example then. So here's a teacher observation from that assessment criteria that we had just then. Have a little moment to read. It's a little bit lengthy.
I've put the assessment criteria in the chat as I haven't, because I haven't.
You haven't.
Gone. There you go, I have now.
I say, you're telling me lies, Jan. You're telling me lies. Yeah, assessment criteria is there in the chat. Assessment criteria is there in the chat. But I just want you to have a little read through. Does this allow all the learners to meet that assessment criteria? Would you sign this off? If you was the IQA here, would you sign it off for all learners? Apologies, it is a little bit lengthy. Yeah, it's not mapped out, is it, Hayley? No, definitely not.
He didn't show enough engagement.
No. They don't really have hobbies, so they're not really interested in this conversation, are they? At the moment, they want to find one, but they can't really add to the conversation about hobbies. Learner D there. Do you like sports? No, not really. Okay. No formal interrupting phrases. Yes, Caroline. Yeah, I like that. I've not met 1.3. Yeah. Is it evidential? Probably not. Is it really? Not enough to really outline for each learner that they have successfully met the assessment criteria. Responding towards each other. Yeah. We would hope that prior to assessing this, we'd have some practice discussions and teach the mechanics of a discussion based activity. Some learners will really struggle with that. Some learners will really struggle with taking turns, knowing when it's their time to speak. Using an object can sometimes help with that, whether it's a squishy or something, a fidget toy that gets passed when it's a person's opportunity to talk. Great, that means everyone gets a chance to talk.
Good point, Sunshine. Yeah, sorry, just to pick up on Sunshine's point, there's no mapping to the assessment criteria.
No, there really isn't. So not sufficient for these learners. We've done the learners a disservice here, really, haven't we? Yeah, it might have been really beneficial to see multiple discussions at different points, potentially with different roles. Yeah, who's going to lead this discussion? Okay, let's see how that works. On to the next one for me, Jan, please. Okay, second one then. Let's have a little think about that. Remember that learning outcomes and assessment criteria are in the chat still. No worries, Rosanna. Thank you. Appreciate that. We get to see the rest of it on recording anyway as well. But appreciate you coming in. Thank you. What do we notice here then? So, 4 learners took part confidently in a discussion about healthy living. Right, so there's our topic, okay? Clear understanding of the main points by building on each other's ideas. For example, there's some summary going on, so we're listening. We're doing some active listening in here. One of our learners has asked for clarification. And then, no, there's no AC mentioned in here. We've got learners making relevant contributions, so what each learner has spoken about. Each learner used an appropriate interrupting phrase. Open and closed questions were discussed. Could have been a little bit more specific with which learners gave what answer, but to say that all the learners were able to respond to that is a acceptable method of observation here. Anything else we notice in this one? Things like how the learners have responded, the style of response they've given. They've been respectful in their responding, agreeing with others and supporting with mention of other people's points. So active listening is going on. We're considering what we want, how we're going to do this, what we need to do. Have all the ACs been met in this one, do we think? Have they been evidenced? Yeah, could have been transcribed, yeah. But remember, this is just the teacher's observation of what happened in that group task. So this could be supported with other evidence as well. But I think considering what our learning outcome was and our assessment criteria, yeah, we might want to refine it a little bit for each learner. But as an overarching observation, which could then be backed up by Q&A with each learner, I think it's quite a lot better than the last one for sure. Maybe not quite hitting the mark, but much better. You can see the kind of style that you can use. Okay. Next slide for me, please, Jan. Video evidence. Yeah, you tend to have a video maybe going on, or maybe a recording of the audio as well. So what we're going to move on to now is we're going to look at a little bit at evidence capture in a little bit more detail. And I've just got a little activity for you. Just a quick matching activity. So in the chat, you've got your assessment criteria number on the left-hand side with a fairly simple assessment criteria, and then you've got a different, the assessment types, or the evidence capture, sorry, apologies, on the right-hand side, A, B, C, D, E. If a teacher has used their observations as evidence, is it appropriate for them to act as the assessor? They can still assess against it, yeah, because that's their observation. Ultimately, you're holistically assessing all the time, aren't you? So that is an assessment of what the learners have done. Yeah. So just in the chat, what would be the most appropriate assessment type or evidence capture for each of these ACs? I have put a little thing up there. If there are other options that would be accepted, feel free to add them. So you were just doing a little matching task. So for example, follow simple instructions, which would be the most appropriate from the right-hand column. Little moment to have a think. Okay. There might be, like I said, there might be other options available there. Yeah, 2.5 Q&A. Yeah, I like that one. 2.1, a lot of people think practical demonstration to follow simple instructions. Could be as easy as, if you're looking at, for example, one of the units around using public transport, for example, could be about planning a journey and walking from the school to the bus stop. How would we show that? So a practical demonstration. Yep, give an example of a problem with a task, a written activity. Yep. is there definitive right or wrong answers here, do you think? Great answers coming into the chat. Yeah, there's not. No, I mean, and this is what I'm trying to show for this. Actually, for some of these, you can use many of them, and that's one of the good things about some of the about all of our qualifications. Really, is you've got that flexibility on your unit content. The second page of your unit content or the back page of your unit content has a box that gives you all the different assessment types and evidence captures, and it tells you whether they're prescribed or optional. If they're prescribed, that tends to be more of the higher level qualifications, but role plays, photographic, video evidence, practical demonstrations, observations, written activities, they can all work. Yeah, Peter, you took the words right out of my mouth. Or they can all work in certain situations. It depends on what the learner is doing. A little bit of a trick activity here, really, but I wanted to just kind of see what your thoughts were and really think about how we can be flexible. Yeah, consider what's most appropriate for that group. Yeah, Shabnam, absolutely.
Yeah, and also depends on the learner, absolutely. And we kind of covered this earlier, didn't we, where we said, we would assess according to the individual needs of the learner. So we have lots of different assessment methods available to us with practical tasks, and we just select the one that's most appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's not a one size fits all. Definitely not a one size fits all. And what about if within your class group, can it be not a one size fits all? So do all learners have to be assessed the same way in that group for the same task? What do we think? No. All no's coming into that. Good. Yeah, absolutely. We need to individualize it. We need to make sure that our learners feel that they can achieve, and will achieve. And by opening up the way that we capture our evidence and the way that we assess our learners really helps support our learners to do that, particularly at entry level. The expectation on our learners at entry level can be quite challenging, and some activities can be almost, impossible. They feel it's going to be impossible to complete. Well, let's change the narrative a little bit. Let's look at how they're going to complete it and how they feel most comfortable in demonstrating their skills. We need to give them opportunity. Inclusivity, absolutely. Yes, definitely. My favourite word, inclusive practice. Next slide, please, Jen. Oh, this is you. This is not me, this one.
Okay, so really here we're just looking at a checklist from an IQA perspective. So as an IQA, what guidance would you give? So what would you be looking for as an IQA, considering all of these different types of activity that we've looked at, different types of evidence? What would your checklist be? So if we can put stuff in the chat, what are you looking out for with these types of evidence? It's kind of really just summarising. Have the AC been met? Good, yeah. Ah, interesting. Yeah. Yes, clear mapping to the criteria. Have you used a range of evidence? Yes. Yes, feedback, very important. Quality feedback, yes. Great. Yeah, lots of reference to feedback. Consistency of assessment.
All paperwork completed, all elements of paperwork completed. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
All the assessment principles, Sunshine. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well done for remembering that from earlier. Yes.
Yeah, nice. Back to align with learners' individual needs. Absolutely. We're often asked what our approach to spelling and grammar is. And the answer to that is always you need to have a centre-based approach to that. So you know your learners best. And it's a proportional approach. Is it going to put the learners off? Then, temper it. Don't correct everything, but be selective. And I think as well, it depends on what the qualification is. So if it's an employability based qualification, then you would need to pay more attention to spelling and grammar, obviously. Yes, good. Is there a learner authentication statement attached and signed? Somebody made a point earlier about Form IQA1, which made me very happy. What is the purpose of Form IQA1? Yes,
Oh,
Shabnam.
that was so basically before you even allowed to administer those assessment booklets out to the learners, the role of the IQA, and it says it right at the front first pre in IQA, you must complete the IQA1, meaning to say that you are happy as an IQA to say, I'm happy for the assessors to deliver the assessment booklet, and it's also an opportunity to iron out any other issues, because you might have noticed that, okay, maybe review this assessment, make the tweaks and changes, put that down the notes for action, record the date that has been completed, and then go back. So it shows the IQA has really looked thoroughly at the assessment booklet. That needs to be done at the very beginning before you even, move on to the sampling tool. That's what we, that's what we do.
Pre-delivery, yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Gold star.
Yeah,
if
if we're giving out things for this, that's a gold star right there for sure. Yeah, something that can cause, if it doesn't happen, can cause a lot of issues later on down the line. IQA1.
Yeah, and obviously it may not, it's not foolproof, but it certainly helps a lot. So you may find that when you're actually delivering the assessment, that it's not working in the way that you hoped it would, and then you would further tweak it and go back to your IQA 1 to acknowledge the amendments to that. So brilliant. Thank you, Shabnam. That was an excellent answer. Great. Okay, so looking at my list here, make sure that everything is individualized and clearly tells the story of how the learner got there. Yes, are the tasks at the appropriate level? Really important. It's not so, I'm not going to go into this in today's session because we're talking about practical skills. But when we do the session for higher levels, we will be focusing on sufficiency of evidence, and we will be talking about word counts and the advantages and disadvantages of providing learners with word counts.
Yes, to answer your question, Leanne, you can have your own in-house IQA documentation, of course. We have templates on the OCN London website, which you can use as a guide. Make sure when you're using your own in-house ones, we make sure that they have all the same information on, as a minimum, please.
Yeah, make sure that all the evidence provided is clear. That refers to video evidence as well. Make sure it's authenticated and has a learner annotation. We've mentioned all of these already. It's just giving you a little checklist here of everything that we've covered. Somebody's mentioned the assessment criteria, make sure they've all been evidenced. A reminder to ensure that individual achievement is acknowledged in group work, and if it isn't, as many people have suggested, carry out a Q&A with that learner is probably the best method of ensuring that each learner meets the criteria. All evidence must be signed and dated. You don't know how many times I go back to centres in my EQA reports going, it's not signed, it's not dated. That applies to the IQA reports as well, please. Make sure they're signed and dated by both yourself and the assessor. Yes, Rosie, evidence should be labelled correctly as well. Okay, key points for IQA. Anybody got anything else to add on IQA before we go back to Q&A and feedback?
Any questions or anything that you have at this point? As some of you know, Jan does run a IQA training session. We are also offering the top-up session to gain the level 4 qualification for IQAs as well. That is something that is going to be made available on our website as a top-up if you've already done the level 4 IQA in-house training that we provide.
As long as you've done the first 2
Yes,
sessions.
I said the first ones. That's what I said. As long as you've already done the in-house one before doing the full qual. Yeah. Is one evidence enough for an objective? It depends on the objective, really, doesn't it? I think very, very subjective, that question, because actually, if you've got, for example, what Jan had earlier on with the young man making tomato sauce, do we need anything more than the photographs? Well, yes, it'd be good for him to show an understanding of what he'd done by annotating those photographs and maybe outlining, doing a step-by-step instructions for creating the tomato sauce. Whereas if you've got a discussion-based evidence, so the learner has just got to show that they took part in a discussion or a teacher observation, that learner answered some questions and things like that, could be sufficient. Unfortunately, there's no right or wrong answer for that one, Mary, because it is down to what the qualification is, what the subject matter is, what the assessment criteria is. It's down to interpretation, but that's where your IQA1 and the assignment brief and the making sure the assignment brief allows the learners to meet the assessment criteria really comes into play. Checking that if there is need for other evidence, then the opportunities are there. I would always err on the side of caution and have at least 2 pieces of evidence for some things, because then if one doesn't quite meet it and the learner's already gone, they've moved on, you've got that evidence base then to kind of fall back on. And if your IQA comes back to you and says, I'm not sure that this meets the evidence, they say, well, actually, they've also done this. Okay, so then that supports that. Yeah, absolutely, Leanne. So Leanne's asked in the chat, can she use this recording to hold a standardisation session for their OCN assessors? Yeah, like I said, I'm happy for you to use it. The only thing I will say is do not use it outside of your centre. Everything we've discussed in here has been, the learners that we've discussed as part of our activities were all made up learners. They're all using AI and things like that to formulate these responses and everything. So nothing's been discussed here that is of any kind of confidential matter. So I'm happy for you to use it, but I just ask that you do not share it widely or outside of your organisation. We will be putting, like I said, a formal version of it on our website once it's gone through our marketing team for them to clean up any dog sounds and things like that might have happened throughout the call. But yeah, you happy for you to do that? Yeah.
Hiya. So just want to go back on something. It's more so from an assessor's point of view. Some of the assessors have raised a query that they almost feel some of the forms, and I'm going to highlight. So, for example, the form A1 learner assessment log. So for each criteria, the assessor has to provide feedback directly talking about the criteria. And what they feel is almost like they're duplicating increased workload, because when they do soft marking or formative feedback, when they're marking their actual unit booklet, they're providing that information there. And it almost feels like, okay, when I move on to A1, I am using I'm just basically duplicating the work. I totally understand the A2.1 form as from an assessor's point of view, where you tick the assessment criteria, have they met, put their initials, and then at the bottom it says tutor feedback, because that's the overall feedback of that learning meeting. That's fine, but the A1 assessment log is almost duplicating. So is it one or either? Like, EQA would say, yeah.
With the A1 form, there is a space provided for feedback after each learning outcome rather than each assessment criteria. That's just as a guidance, and it very much depends on the unit. So, for example, in the unit that we looked at with the cooking, selecting from fork to table, that sort of unit, it would probably be sufficient to provide summative feedback on that unit. It very much depends on the level of the unit, the content of the unit, how much feedback is required. We would expect to see some summative feedback as well as a formative feedback comment in general. Sorry, Lisa, I just jumped
No,
in
that's
there.
okay. Well, all I was going to say is remember the documents that we put onto our website are guidance documents. So if you're, say for example, you've got a learner and you're giving feedback on their work, they've got a workbook and you're giving feedback on that workbook, that's sufficient. You don't need to use A1 for that. You know, you've already given feedback. You've got a front sheet that ticks off the assessment criteria. You know, that's sufficient. These documents that we put on the website are for guidance, particularly for centres that haven't got these things in place already, that might need an idea of kind of what it could look like. I've got them actually here in front of me because I'm using them to assess a learner's work today, actually, because I'm reviewing something that's come in from a independent learner, but I'm only using that because they haven't used a workbook. So I can then go through assessment criteria by assessment criteria and ensure that the learner has met. But if your learners use workbooks or you create your own feedback forms, as long as they've got the right information on them, you can use whatever ones you like. Like I said, these are guidance, these are templates. They're not you must use. They're not mandatory documents that you must use from our website.
And they're all in Word format, which allows you to amend them to suit your needs. But what I would say is just run it past your EQA to make sure that they're happy with it. So for the A1, for example, Shabnam, you could just use the learner declaration statement at the beginning and then do your feedback in your workbook, as Lisa said.
Yeah, like I said, all the things that we have here are just purely provided for guidance. Not mandatory documents to be used, but if you want to use them, if you want to adapt them, you want to change them, please feel free to do so. Quite a lot of centres take them and make them their own in different ways and use them as a front page for their booklets if they want to, and that's where all the feedback goes. But you know, there's lots of different ways to use them, but by no means are they mandatory documents to be used.
Thank you for confirming. So, because what we might do is we spoke to our EQA and because it's our first year delivering it, I think be on the cautious side, have everything there, and then maybe review it next year, what things we need and what we don't need.
Definitely.
So, yeah. And Jan, you said when we had our IQA meeting in August, you said for an EQA, they really like it at the front sheet of the workbook that you have a table where it says location of the, so rather than them faffing around and looking at each where it is, you've clearly guided where and what page it is or what task is actually meeting that assessment criteria. So we've done that, and I just hope that it's fine.
If you do want to send anything over to us, Shabnam, like you can check something by us or by your EQA, please feel free to do so. That's what your EQA is there for as well, and we are.
Have we got your email addresses?
Mine's really easy. I'm just Lisa at ocnlondon.org.uk. Jan is the same, but just Jan at ocnlondon.org.uk.
You can always use Lisa rather than Jan.
You can always use mine instead. That's fine.
No, send them through. That's fine.
Yeah,
Jan at. I'll pop them both in the chat so you've got them.
Yeah, put them there. I mean, feel free. That's what we're here for. We're here to kind of help you answer any questions and everything like that. With regards to any further questions around the things that we've discussed today, has anyone got any further things they'd like to ask at this point, or any responses to anything that has been discussed? Brandy, yes, hello.
Hi, do you have an idea of when you're sending out the AI in education policy that you were working on?
Yeah, that's just going through our approvals board next week, so we'll be coming out straight after then. Okay. Yeah, that will come out, that will go on our website, but I will, if anyone wants that specifically to send to themselves, I will get that sent out, but it's going for our approvals board for a final check on Tuesday next week. With regards to this recording and transcription, like I said, I will put this over to our marketing team for them to just jazz up a little bit. I don't know what they do with regards to that, and then I'll get that sent out to everyone that's been in attendance today. One thing I will say is that we are going to be issuing digital badges for attendance for today. So OCN London uses digital badges for our micro credentials. We will be giving out digital badges for this session today. So if you've attended this session but you are in a group and we haven't got your name down as one of our attendees on our attendee list, please drop Nazreen an email to let her know the people that attended from your centre. Nazreen's email, can you just drop that in the chat as well, please, Jan? Nazreen will be awarding your digital badges for attendance to this standardisation. Digital badges are something you can use anywhere as evidence of CPD. They come through something called Learning Vault, but you can use them on your LinkedIn, your social media, wherever you would like to use them. And it's a really good way to evidence your attendance to these kind of CPD sessions as well.
There's a query around the date for the level 2 or the level 3 and the level 3. That basically the higher level one of these. It will be in February.
That's right.
I think we said, but we haven't got an exact date as yet, I don't think.
And in addition to, I've just seen, thanks Karen, really appreciate your feedback. If you do have any testimonials from your learners or testimonials from the experiences you've had so far working with OCN London, I will happily accept them into our inbox. We are doing some work around our testimonials and things like that, and updating our website currently. So if you do have had a great experience with us, or there's anything you want to specifically highlight, please do send me that through on email. And if you're happy for us to share that with our social media and things like that, then we will do. The SEND conference, yes, I've just seen that one come in. So our SEND conference is going to be on the 25th of March. So it's always around about the same date. We try to kind of fit it in there. So 25th of March is going to be in the same venue that we had the last 2 years, but we've actually moved into a bigger part of that venue. So still in Underwood Street in central London, Lumiere Events. This year's focus is going to be all around supporting learners using AI and the pitfalls and things that can come from that. But yeah, it's 25th of March. Save the date's going to be coming out hopefully before the end of this month. I know we haven't got a lot of time left. Hopefully our marketing team have got it ready to come out, and then tickets will be available as from January for that as well. We have opened it up to a wider audience, so we have got an audience of over 120 tickets available for that for this year, because we feel that we need to expand it out a little bit further. So watch out for your save the date coming into your inbox. And also, like I said, the tickets will be available for that in beginning of January as well. No problem. Thank you very much for everyone that's joined us today. Really do appreciate for all your input and the comments that have been made and the discussion points. I think they've been really, really helpful, really useful for everyone on the call. We will send out information with regards to the next standardisation in the new year, but I just want to say a big thank you for your participation, for your attendance. It's really good to kind of hear some of the wonderful things that are going on in centres, and actually puts my mind at rest a little bit that all these things that we're talking about are happening, are going on, and that's really good news. If you do have any further questions, anything else you want to ask, please feel free to email myself or Jan, and we will happily answer any of your questions.
And thanks for your lovely feedback as well. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely. Have a lovely rest of your day. We're nearly at the weekend. For those of you that are celebrating Stranger Things Day, I will be later on. But yeah, Stranger Things is a great TV show, Jan. Come on, get with the programme. But yeah, have a great rest of your day, and thank you very, very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.